This is Julia Kelly, long before the 2 car accidents that changed her life.
You're so naughty.
Julia's future would be chronic pain and reliance on benefits. She took her own life in November last year. We know it wasn't easy for Julia because she said so. She headed her own charity and she spoke of her fight to get the benefits she believed she deserved.
Even though I had overwhelming medical evidence, you're having to go through tribunals, with regarding receiving ESA, and just that stress on top of everything else that you're going through, it's almost enough to make you cry.
This one is of Julia a month before she died.
In her final weeks, Julia was in pain. Her father suspects she was depressed. She'd also received letters from the Department for Work and Pensions asking her to repay benefits she'd claimed.
Dear Miss Kelly, the heading, "We are contacting you. I'm conducting an investigation into alleged criminal offences in relation to a claim to benefit. This is a very serious matter which I need to discuss with you urgently."
How do you think she would have felt then reading this?
She was absolutely petrified.
Last week, a coroner recorded a verdict of suicide. The coroner said upset caused by the potential withdrawal of her benefits had been the trigger for Julia to end her life.
I feel obviously bitter that we don't have Julia anymore, and perhaps the reason that she finally did it perhaps could have been avoided. We could have never cured the pain, but I think that the way the letters were sent, the way the whole matter was handled by the authorities, could have been treated in a different way. I believe as a society we must have a responsibility to vulnerable people.
A spokesman at the DWP said their thoughts were with Julia's family, but they said employment support allowance, which Julia claimed, was means tested, and if someone has sufficient savings, they may no longer be entitled to it.
Want dinner? Hey, we want.
There can, though, be many reasons for a suicide, and families can never know for sure what they were.
You enjoying that, are you?
Dave West, however, has survived to tell his story.
A letter had come that day, because there seemed to be letters come nearly every day, and every time a letter came it got worse.
What the letters were saying back in April 2013 was that Dave's housing benefit was being reduced, his incapacity benefit cut. Despite diabetes and depression, Dave had been found fit to work.
I was left with roughly £1 a day to live on after I paid my bills, and that was £1 for food, clothes, travel, and it cost £3 something to get to the doctors. So I couldn't cope. I knew that I couldn't live like that.
Dave tried twice that month to take his own life.
I knew I wasn't fit for work. My finances were being squeezed. I was losing my home where I brought up 6 children. It was like shifting sands. Everything just moved. It was like having a rug pulled out from under your feet.
The Department for Work and Pensions confirmed Dave's appeal was eventually successful. He's been receiving employment support allowance ever since. What we don't know is just how many benefits claimants have taken their own lives, because the DWP isn't counting. What they have done, though, is to review some of these cases. 49 reviews, in fact, since 2012. 40 of them have been suicides. And in 30 of these reviews, there have been calls for improvements within the DWP. What they won't do, though, is make any of those details public. Campaigners aren't happy, but the DWP says publishing its recommendations would be inappropriate because they contain extremely personal information. The Department for Work and Pensions say these details, they're private.
The Department of Work and Pensions should be open and transparent about the findings from the benefit-related inquiries they've carried out in the last 3 years. It is in the public interest that the information be released.
In the absence of these reviews, though, mental health charities have their own thoughts about how the government should communicate with vulnerable people.
If in the end somebody receives a letter out of the blue and it causes them huge anxiety and they lose their benefits and they become more unwell or in tragic cases take their own lives, then there is no economic sense in that at all. So I think a much more sensible, understanding tone, which begins with recognising that they have an illness but they want to go back to work, is the key.
Oh, cheers.
Who knows whether heeding this advice would save any lives? What the family of Julia Kelly say, though, is that it's surely worth a try.